Mr. Fix, you eat dinner with my father, Dave Ecker. Dave is my father.
Oh, really?
I'm Buzz Ecker.
Well,
We just lost my mother.
Well, I feel so fortunate to have gotten him into his new interest in this sketching.
Yeah.
I think that's a real benefit, new
Right.
challenge for him that,
Yeah.
particularly at this time, and
Right.
so I'm just thrilled that he's taken to that,
Yeah.
and I'm so happy that I was fortunate enough to get him interested in that.
Yeah. Now, he said you were an anti-sub warfare.
Yeah, let me give you a little introductory background to that. I graduated from college in June of 1941, and I knew that I'd been getting a deferment from the service, and that I knew that was coming up sometime. But I did get a job as an assistant principal of a high school in Virginia. And so my draft deferment ended in, I think, December of, shortly after Pearl Harbor in '41. And so I knew I wanted to get in the Navy. I'd had an interest all my life. So I, with a college education, I thought I might get a commission. So I went down to the recruiting office in Richmond, Virginia, and went through the process and found out that my eyesight was a little below their standard, and so I didn't qualify. Well, I decided to take the risk of just enlisting, which I did. So I went through the old Navy training and the Norfolk naval operation, and for 2 months, and then he sent me down to Key West to sonar school, and I was down there for about 5 weeks, and we went to sea every day. And
when was
I
this?
learned to be a,
What year and month was this?
This was May of, well, let's see, I don't want to, this was May of '42.
Okay.
And I was down there until June of the 16th. We went to sea every day, and I learned to be a sonar operator because they said I had a very acute acoustical ability. It's strange now that I've lost that. And anyway, I trained on the sonar equipment to spot submarines below the surface. And we made simulated runs and on subs for that extended period of time, and then when I finished, they shipped me down to Galveston, Texas, and I went aboard a new, what they call a PC 566. It was a ship smaller than a destroyer, and they were using it to convoy oil tankers from South America, because by that time the German subfleet had moved across the Atlantic and was devastating the merchant fleets in the Atlantic and the Gulf So I was just a lowly seaman, but I was a part of this crew and we were running these convoys from South America, and our job was to run on the outskirts of these convoy of tankers, and we lost a lot of them despite our efforts. But on July the 30th of 1942, we got an assignment to pick up an old passenger liner in Key West and escort it across the Gulf to, I think it was New Orleans. And it was filled with survivors of previous sinkings. And so it was a beautiful afternoon, and this old liner was the Robert E. Lee. And I've told this story to my children through the years, but it wasn't until a couple of years ago that I knew the conclusion of it. And I was on the bridge at that afternoon as my watch, and I couldn't believe it, but I saw this torpedo go sailing by our ship and hit the Robert E. Lee. And within 20 minutes, the ship had sunk. And so we immediately went to general quarters, and I assumed my normal duty in the sonar, and I picked up the sub, and we made a number of runs dropping depth charges on it, but we never knew whether we were successful. And about 2 years ago, there was a show on TV that was put together by an undersea archaeological operation that had been plotting wrecks in the Gulf of Mexico as part of a project to lay a pipeline across the Gulf of Mexico. And they found the Robert E. Lee. And they also found nearby a German sub.
So you did get it.
Yeah.
So they investigated and found out that it had been sunk by an explosion, and the Navy, on the other hand, when presented with this information, wouldn't accept the fact that the 566 had been in the vicinity, was given any credit for sinking it. They said that our depth charges were set too shallow, and it couldn't have caused the damage that had incurred on this sub. So I saw this program and just assumed that we'd probably sunk it, but they didn't give us credit. So in early May of this year, Bob Ballard, the undersea explorer that had found the Titanic, conducted a search in the Gulf of Mexico, and he found the Robert E. Lee, and he found this sub. And he found out that in his, and this was all on this film that was by Nova, and it was about an hour show, and they found out that the whole bow of the sub had been blown off. And so they had some sophisticated techniques where they photographed hundreds of pictures of this sub and were able to reconstruct what really happened. And they put this thing together and concluded that one of our depth charges
Got it.
had landed on the bow of the sub.
Mm-hmm.
And in sinking, the depth charge went off, and the explosion of the depth charge set off two torpedoes inside of the German sub, which caused this massive explosion, which caused the bow to be blown off the sub and caused its sinking. So he presented all this information to the Navy Department, and they pictured the conclusion where the Navy accepted his information, and it showed a public ceremony of the son of the skipper of the 566 receiving the Legion of Merit for having sunk the sub.
Mm-hmm.
So that was very exciting
I bet.
for me to realize that we had sunk the only German sub in the Gulf of Mexico.
Good for you.
So I'm in the process of putting together a letter to the Navy Department to find out if they gave any recognition to the crew and the role that I played in helping to sink this sub.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Which you did.
So,
You had a role.
so that was a very exciting to learn that.
Did you get to go? Did you go to Europe? Did you go to?
No. After that, I've got 3 phases of my Navy career. After I left the PC in October, I was shifted to the hospital corps of the Navy because I was a pre-med student in college and had planned to go to med school. And so I was trained as a pharmacist mate and spent the next year or so at the Norfolk Naval Hospital and the Hospital Corps School on their staff. And then in the September of 1943, I got a commission in the Navy as an ensign. And they sent me to Cornell to indoctrination in the Naval Officers Corps. And up there, they had an opportunity to be assigned to the surface fleets of the Navy, and there was a volunteer opportunity to volunteer to go into the motor torpedo, which was a volunteer service along with the subs. So I volunteered for that and got accepted and was sent to Melville for training and completed that training, and then was assigned to the staff of that to train other crews in the Atlantic to operate the motor torpedo boats. And then in the end of 1944, I was shipped out to the Pacific and went to, it took me 2 months to get to my squadron, and I went through New Guinea and finally picked it up in the southern Philippines. And from there I stayed until the end of the war and had enough points to get out in September 1945. And we ran, our primary goal there was to work with the Australian and Philippine scouts on dropping them off in these remote islands in the southern Philippines, from Borneo and Palawan for the most part, to observe the action of the few Japanese troops that were still there. We'd leave them there for about a week and then go in at night and pick them up in their rubber boat. And then occasionally we would have an opportunity to maybe pick up a stray barge of Japanese troops who were trying to move their equipment or move their people, and we would intercept them and attempt to sink them with gunfire. But that was the action that I had there with this motor torpedo squadron in the Navy. So that was essentially the concluding of my roughly 4 years in the Navy.
Yeah, yeah. I gotta let these guys go because we're past our time. Their class ends at 3:20. But thank you very much for speaking with us about your wartime experiences. We greatly enjoyed it.
You know,
If you need help writing the letter, I'll be happy to write a letter for you to the Navy.
Well, it's a you know, those memories become dim, but there's a lot of them that are very. I've had some. I made some great friends with the Philippine people.
Yeah.
I would often spend a night with there was one beautiful little island in the middle of the Sulu Sea that was just very hospitable. We'd spend the night there, and that's where I learned about deep fried sweet potatoes and chicken, and everything was cooked in palm oil. But they were most hospitable and were very grateful for what we were doing at the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was
And we visited a lot of the islands, and there was one in particular called Romblon that has a significance. The whole island is marble, and all of the public buildings in Manila are built with Romblon marble.
He's got a question for you.
what was your rank when your service was?
I ended up as a Lieutenant JG.
Okay. Did you receive any special accommodations? Any
Not
medals
in
or anything?
particular, just the routine of, that's why I'm curious as to whether we got any recognition for this one significant event.
Yeah.
But I just got the standard ones of serving in the Atlantic, the Pacific, and that was about it. I never had any what I felt was any outstanding activities, but it was a part of doing what you were assigned to do.
Right.
So,
Right. I gotta let him go. Thank you very much.
well,
Thank you, Mr. Fix.
right. So,
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
oh, good. Well, it's nice
Nice
to we've enjoyed Dave very much.
Right. I think he misses my mother. Turn that off. I think he misses